Talpiot X-Med, Leadership in Healthcare.
Welcome to Sheba, this city of health. It is my distinct honor to open this special Talpiot X-Med event. I am sure that amidst all of the corona pandemic challenges, I am sure that you will have today the chance to get the sense of what leadership in healthcare means, what Talpiot leadership is all about: to lead, to excel, to dare. I wish you all a great evening and want to take the opportunity to thank Talia and Ari Gross for your commitment, friendship, and partnership. I remember the excitement and tears in your eyes when you were first introduced to our Talpiot people. I hope that our program this evening will accentuate your excitement. I also want to thank and acknowledge Dr. Eyal Tzir-Michman for leading the Talpiot program. Eyal, you are a leader by example. Please.
Talpiot X-Med, Leadership in Healthcare.
Good evening and good morning to our friends across the ocean. I am Dr. Eyal Zimlichman, and I serve as Deputy Director General, Chief Medical Officer, and Chief Innovation Officer at Sheba Medical Center. And I'm honored to serve as head of the Talpiot Medical Leadership Program at Sheba. Talpiot X-Med is an international event, taking place live on stage here in Israel and broadcast to over 20 countries. This is also the first Talpiot X-Med event in what we believe will become a long-standing tradition. We have a very diverse audience today, from medical doctors and researchers to medical students and high school students, from friends of Sheba around the world to our followers here at home. And of course, the Sheba wonderful staff, working extra hard, especially during these challenging times. I think we have a very engaging program for you today, featuring a taste of what Talpiot actually is, sprinkled with generous amounts of the famous Sheba spirit. Now let me tell you a bit about the Talpiot Medical Leadership Program. For the sake of full disclosure, I myself am a Talpiot graduate from the 3rd cohort. Standing here takes me back to sometime in 2007, when I was notified of my acceptance to the program. Even back then, Sheba's Talpiot program carried great meaning. It had a mythical aura. I remember how proud it made me feel to be a part of this community, but also the feeling of responsibility at becoming an integral part of something bigger than myself, part of the Sheba Talpiot family. Sheba Medical Center has always put the individual first, offering more than a few programs of excellence that identify, educate, and promote the finest. Among those, Talpiot stands out as the absolute best, a promising group of young physicians who are selected and cultivated to lead the future of healthcare. The Talpiot program is based on 2 main pillars: leadership and excellence. These pillars provide focus throughout the 4-year program. For leadership, doctors learn the skills needed to lead institutions, teams, departments, and projects in order to achieve shared goals and innovation. For excellence, there's a personal development compass covering 4 main areas we work on with every Talpionaire: clinical skills and patient care, engagement in significant research, managerial skills, and leading through innovation and entrepreneurship. Since its inception 17 years ago, with 75 Talpiot Fellows in 9 cohorts to date, we have witnessed the momentous impact of these Talpiot members, taking on senior leadership positions here at Sheba, as well as at other leading health institutions in Israel. Today, together with all of you, we are introducing a new initiative, the International Talpiot X-Med event. 5 Talpiot Fellows and a representative from TELEM, another program of excellence in leading research, will share their cutting-edge research, insights, and pioneering work. You could imagine how difficult it was to choose only 5 fellows out of the 75, as all of them have interesting and outstanding findings to share. You will just have to come back next year to our 2021 Talpiot X-Med to see for yourself. And finally, to all Talpiot graduates and members throughout the years, my message to you is best captured by this quote from President Barack Obama. We don't ask you to believe in our ability to bring change. We ask you to believe in yours. Now I invite you all to sit back, relax, and enjoy your time with Sheba's Talpiot.
Talpiot program at Sheba. Let's talk about numbers. 85 startups, over 100 awards, $50 million in research grants, 20 independent research labs, 12 Talpiot graduates managing departments, 17 senior lecturers, over 2,000 published articles, 16 professors, 12 service managers, one special Talpiot program that is preparing future generations of medical practice in Israel. Talpiot prepares leading doctors in their fields of expertise. They're prepared for leadership, excellence, research and innovation, turning them into the top medical professionals at Sheba and in Israel.
The Talpiot program prepared me to lead the Children's Hospital.
Don't think about the here and now. Look over the horizon.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a member of Talpiot.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot member.
I'm a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
Sheba's Talpiot program, leading the transformation of health. By the way, I'm also a Talpiot graduate.
Professor Benjamin Deckel's fascination with the kidneys drove the direction of his medical career. He is currently the director of the Pediatric Stem Cell Research Institute and the chief of the Division of Pediatric Nephrology at the Edmund and Lily Safra Children's Hospital, Sheba Medical Center. He also serves as the president of the Israel Stem Cell Society and an elected member of the American Society of Clinical Investigation. Professor Deckel is internationally renowned for his innovative findings and treatments in the fields of stem cells, nephrology, and kidney cancer. As a member of the first Talpiot cohort at the Sheba Medical Center, Professor Deckel mentors countless upcoming next-generation physician scientists at Sheba and oversees a large laboratory of which its discoveries are translated to the clinic. Professor Deckel loves hiking with his kids, leaving no stone unturned. Talpiot X-Med. Leadership in Healthcare.
Good evening, everyone. So this patient you're seeing here has end-stage kidney disease. Her kidneys are not working, and she must perform dialysis to clean out her blood 4 times a week, 4 hours each time. She spends most of her time in the hospital, and her life is extremely tough. Some statistics about dialysis. Now, hear this out. The 5-year survival for patients receiving hemodialysis is 42%. This is shorter than patients with diseases such as prostate cancer, breast cancer, Hodgkin and non-Hodgkin lymphoma, bladder cancer, kidney cancer, colorectal cancer, leukemia. That is not good enough for our patients. Are there any other solutions for this patient? Well, yes, there are. Kidney transplantation. You heard about it. Kidney transplantation has been one of the major medical advances over the last 60 years. But there are not enough kidney donors. More than 100,000 patients await kidney transplants in the US. 13 people die each day while waiting for a life-saving kidney transplant. Every 14 minutes, someone is added to the kidney transplant list. And even if you succeed in getting a kidney, there is need to take lifelong immune suppression with all related complications. That is not ideal at all. We need a paradigm shift, a new way of thinking. And for that reason exactly, I opened what I refer to as the Sheba Kidney Repair Shop, or the Sheba Kidney Garage. I had an image of a broken car. I remember telling myself that when your car breaks down, you can try fixing it to allow more mileage, or alternatively, you can hop into the car agency and get a brand new car. I made an analogy to the kidney. I realized that in contrast to cars, fixing a diseased kidney and replacing parts of it is much more realistic than manufacturing a whole new biological kidney. I started this journey by myself quite a while ago. I was younger and prettier back then. But sure enough, within several years, I was able to recruit enthusiastic repair women and men, incredible individuals, to my shop, and we were flying. We started creating tools that would do the job. We looked for stem cells that would give rise to kidney tissue and replace damaged one. Now, why stem cells? Why stem cells of all cells? Because they can be kept out of our bodies in the lab, yet retain the ability to differentiate. It was only natural to look for such cells in developing human kidneys of embryos. And eventually, we were the first in the world to identify and isolate human fetal kidney tissue forming stem cells. We could show that these cells can give rise to human kidney tissue, as shown in this slide. This is a complicated structure, but it's a kidney, and fix damaged kidneys once tested in animal models. When we discovered that, we were on the top of the world. However, we weren't satisfied. These embryonic cells were foreign to our bodies, meaning, again, they would require immune suppressive medication like kidney transplantation. We still felt, we could do better. We wanted to replace one's own parts with one's own cells. For that, we had to search in one's adult human kidney, not fetal, adult human kidney. As you all know, the kidney produces urine. This is common knowledge. And the urine flows through the kidney. As the urine flows through the kidney, functional kidney cells fall into the urine from the kidney and are lost in despair. We urinate around 70,000 kidney cells per hour. That's a lot. Now, these cells that fall out must be replaced by new cells. Otherwise, think about it. We will urinate our entire kidneys out. We understood that and discovered for the first time something very basic about our lives. Our adult kidney constantly rebuilds itself. This process is done by regenerating cells located in each and every segment of the kidney. Each kidney segment is rebuilt separately. It's a complicated process, but hey, look, life can be complicated. So the next question was, how do we obtain these adult regenerating cells or fixing cells for our repair shop? We first obtained a small piece of the adult human kidney and turned that piece into cells. We then discovered how human kidney cells can be cultivated in the lab, in the Petri dish, in 3D. This led us to create 3D kidney spheroids. These guys, kidney spheroids, float in the Petri dish as small balls of kidney. And importantly, they harbor within themselves fully functioning, regenerating cells of each segment of the kidney. Then this nature of the 3D kidney spheroids growing in the lab at Sheba allowed them to give rise to parts of the different kidney segments. And this is how it looks in real life. This is a bunch of floating human kidney spheroids in the Petri dish. I love them. Now, once transplanted into diseased kidney, spheroids generate new kidney parts. These are stained in brown. These kidney parts are adjacent to existing parts which are unstained. So, we generated kidney tissue with one's own cells. But was it good enough? I'm not sure. The kidney has a huge network of small vessels that carry blood and oxygen. And they also become severely damaged in prolonged kidney disease. Now, these vessels must be also fixed, not only the kidney tissue, the vessels also. So, we took a different approach here. We knew the kidney needs oxygen, so to allow the kidney more blood delivery and oxygen supply, we wanted to fix its blood vessels by this very different approach. We obtained stem cells not from the kidney itself, but now from the bone marrow and from the cord blood of newborns and mixed them together. These stem cells were transplanted into kidneys, and importantly, only their combination could give rise to genuine vessels. One stem cell type generates the inner layer of the vessel, and another stem cell type the outer layer. These vessels carry blood and oxygen to heal the kidneys. So now, what's new at our kidney repair shop? This is what is new. We offer a triple cell mixture for regeneration. 3D kidney spheroids and vessel-forming stem cells. This cell mixture allows replacement and regeneration of both kidney tissue by the kidney spheroids and the blood vessels by the blood-forming stem cells. And this is the summary of the process we envision. It is a cycle of giving and getting back. With the latest advancement is the starting of this cycle with collection of urine instead of obtaining a kidney biopsy. The kidney cells that fall into the urine are turned into kidney spheroids to be put back for regeneration. So this is the message. Urine is not a waste. It is recycled. We recycle our cells to give life. We recycle our cells for the care of our patients. Thank you.
From the moment she decided to pursue a medical career, Dr. Haberman knew that she wanted the dual role of physician and scientist, which would allow her to not only treat, but also understand and influence the care of complex human disorders. She earned her MD-PhD from Tel Aviv University and completed her residency at the Sheba Medical Center. As part of a fellowship at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, Dr. Haberman became part of a large cohort conducting breakthrough research on Crohn's disease, whose findings have been accepted and adopted worldwide. Dr. Haberman enjoys hiking with her family and listening to music while playing along on the piano. Talpiot X-Med. Leadership in healthcare.
Hi, good evening. In my talk, I will focus on personalized medicine in Crohn's disease. People look phenotypically very different from each other. Different people, even from the same family, have different predisposition for different diseases. These differences between people cannot be explained by their genes because we share 90% of our genome. In contrast, we share only 30% of our gut microbiome with each other, and we think that some of those differences between people may be explained by the different gut bacterial composition. We see differences also between different patients with Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is a chronic inflammatory condition affecting the gastrointestinal tract. Most of our patients are diagnosed young, during childhood or early adulthood. Patients present with diarrhea, abdominal pain, fatigue, anemia, and weight loss. I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist. I care for children with Crohn's disease, and we see this increase in incidence of Crohn's disease worldwide, and more so in children. This increase is noted in westernized countries, but more recently also in urban areas in China and India, where those diseases barely existed before. We think this is linked to modern era, dietary and environmental triggers, as well as alteration we have made in our gut microbiome. So the rapid changes cannot be explained by genetics. So it has to be related to changes we have made in the way we live and eat. A lot of research is invested in treating Crohn's disease, and several good therapies evolved. However, we still cannot cure the disease. Since it is a chronic disease of the young, patients require therapies for many years. With existing therapies, we are able to achieve sustained remission in less than 50% of the patient, which means that the other 50% still have ongoing inflammation. Most therapies are directed toward modulating the immune system, and those therapies have toxicity and are linked with higher incidence of infections and cancer. The disease affects the gut. When I perform the endoscopy, I can easily visualize the actual disease and evaluate the injured gut. I can estimate the disease severity, and I can follow the disease course directly with my own eyes. I look at the biopsies under the microscope, and I see the layers of the involved gut. However, it is clear to me and to all of our patients that more research is needed to try and understand what is it that we see? What causes Crohn's? Why some do not respond to therapy? Which other new drug targets we should discover for those failing therapy? How will we know who will respond to which therapy? And what is the role for gut microbiome and the diet in those conditions? We in the lab aim to answer those questions because we think that gaining this knowledge will help us better treat and even cure Crohn's disease. I'm still amazed by the fact that I see in clinic 2 patients that present exactly the same. They have similar symptoms, similar endoscopic findings. I treat them with the same medication, but after 1 year, they look different. One heals his injured gut while receiving the first line of therapy. The other failed the first therapy, failed 3 additional classes of medication, and required surgery. Our goal is to try and understand the different biology in those that respond and not respond, looking into the affected injured gut. We look for new targets for future therapies, and we identify markers for response. To understand this, we need to dive into the 3 main layers of the normal gut lining. In normal conditions, things are kept in layers. The gut bacteria is localized in the lumen, in the external mucus layer close to the epithelial barrier, but far enough from the immune system in the inner layer. And the epithelial function as a border, as a fence between the bacteria and the immune system. When this barrier is injured in Crohn's disease, bacteria are now translocating from the external layer to the inner layer where they meet the immune system, and the immune system gets activated, which further increase the injury and fuel up the abnormal inflammation, altogether leading to this abnormal interaction between the gut bacteria, the epithelial barrier, and the immune system. What is this gut microbiome? So in the last decade, we learned that the gut microbiome is made up of trillions of bacteria, and we are only beginning to understand how many important and diverse roles those play in our body. This large bacterial community is established during childhood. Then it stabilizes in most healthy adults and is referred to as our second genome. A healthy gut microbiome communicates with the intestinal cells, help digest certain food, and prevent disease-causing bacteria from sticking and invading the intestinal walls. In addition, it helps educate our immune system to differentiate between bad and good bacteria. Taking all this into account, acknowledging the fact that there are no good animal models to study Crohn's, our research includes large human cohorts. We use samples from the gut to characterize those interactions in the affected lining of the gut. We use clinical phenotype of the patient in addition to big data, different omics, and machine learning analysis. We characterize the bacterial population, the type of the immune activation, and the gut epithelial functions, trying to capture all those important personalized signatures that will help us build models for defined outcomes. Using this approach, we have already seen that there are some bacteria that are increased in Crohn's, others with anti-inflammatory function that are decreased in Crohn's. We defined bacteria that are linked to disease severity and can predict future disease flare. We define models that is linked to the development of disease complications and need for surgery. Others and we define immune signatures that are linked to response to therapy, and we have shown that part of the immune activation is more aggravated in older versus younger children. We have shown the metabolic and mitochondrial functions of the epithelia are key factors that maintain this barrier function and can be an important target for future interventions. All those are important research questions and findings. But when using big data and patient samples, one can only determine association. In order to test causality, we are building models. And we use the disease tissue and the gut bacteria from the patient to build our personalized disease models. We can determine causality. We can better understand what is the underlying barrier and metabolic functions that we need to fix. Which bacteria are linked to the immune activation that we need to modify. We build those to test for causality, but also as a platform to test for new therapies. We can screen different drugs using those models and test for toxicity and effect before we move on to clinical trials in patients. So to summarize, I hope I was able to convince you that we are dealing with a complex disease, that the environmental triggers, diet, and the gut microbiome are involved in its pathogenesis, that while Crohn's patients present similarly, they respond different to therapy because their underlying biology in the affected gut is different. We are now able to use big data and different models to tell us from the start which patient will respond to which therapy and to guide us toward new targets for those who are failing existing therapies. Thank you.
Hello. It is my real pleasure to be with you this evening for a few moments and to congratulate all of you. The Talpiot program, initiated and handled by Sheba, is an important program that supports young researchers, doctors, MDs exceptional individuals who have been selected to this program in order to enhance their personal abilities and experiences, so to become leaders for the up-and-coming challenges of the Israel healthcare system. As we all know, at hopefully the tail end of the coronavirus pandemic, it is now more important than ever to nurture, to grow, to support the next generation of our leaders, of the ecosystem leaders who will manage all of us through this crisis on the medical front, on the management of the medical systems front, so that we grow up out of this pandemic and we grow and prepare our healthcare ecosystem to get ready for what is coming next. It shouldn't necessarily be getting us ready for the next pandemic, which is an important task, but it also is important that we all get geared up, equipped, and ready towards the challenges and frankly also the opportunities of the 21st century. I'm confident that with the leadership of Sheba and the X-Med program and other events handled by Talpiot and overall Talpiot as a leadership program and platform, I'm confident that we will be able to support properly and grow the next generation of leaders in the Israeli healthcare system. I'd like to thank Professor Kreis, Dr. Eyal Zimlichman, all graduates and members of the Talpiot Sheba program, and everybody who's here this evening for being part of this event and for supporting the notion of creating the next generation leadership of the Israeli healthcare ecosystem. Thank you very much and good luck.
Dr. Amit Zabtani's passion for giving, combined with his interest in science, set him on the path to a clinical and research career. Currently, Dr. Zabtani is an orthopedic surgery resident at the Sheba Medical Center, having earned a BSc and MD degree from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. His main interest is preoperative planning and personalized medicine, applying virtual reality, surgical navigation, and 3D printing to provide greater confidence to patients and surgeons before operations. Amit is married to his beloved wife Sapir and enjoys spending time with family and friends. As the COVID-19 cases increased exponentially, the world found itself at a deficiency in the number of available ventilators. Although not his core specialty, Dr. Zabtani's building instincts kicked in, and today he will share his agile, life-saving initiative with you. Talpiot X-Med, leadership in healthcare.
Good evening. I want to take you back in time, back at the beginning of March this year, which now sounds like decades ago. The COVID-19 outbreak just emerged. Data and news from pandemic countries regarding the shortage of ventilators became an issue. For me, the idea that the doctor will have to prioritize which patient will have a ventilator and which not was horrifying. Meanwhile, a Cold War started between governments and powerful organizations around the world regarding medical equipment. Putting your hand on a new ventilator became mission impossible. And back then, there were awesome places where people were able to sit together and drink beer, to socialize. We used to call those places bars. So in one of those bars, me and my best friend from high school, which serves as high-level engineer in one of those intelligence units of IDF, and the easiest way to explain what he's doing for your life is just to say there's some kind of Q from James Bond movies. And our biggest hobby is to play with ideas. It can be hypothetical ideas or real ones. Sometimes it's just another woodworking project, and sometimes it's how to design the best safety chair to your dog when you're riding a scooter in Tel Aviv. And this evening, we have started to play with the idea of dealing with the ventilator crisis and how we can help the situation. and after a few hours and a lot more of beers, we understood three important things. Firstly, inventing a new ventilator from scratch is not feasible, and we don't have enough time for it. Secondly, we have to base our solution on approved, common, and cheap technology. The third thing we understood this evening that we sat too far away from the restroom, which was a huge mistake. And after a few more beers, we understood that it had to be a conversion of some device. The day after it, while reviewing all kinds of breathing supporting machine that met our criteria from the night before, one of the options was BPAP. Just a few words about BPAP. BPAP stands for B-level positive air pressure device. It's some kind of non-invasive ventilator that uses positive pressure to support breathing. It's quite common in hospital, and even more common in people's houses as a sleeping support device. It is cheap, and most importantly, as non-invasive ventilator, we were still able to find it in the market. So far, the good news. 5 days after the beginning of our journey to the ventilator, while mapping the technological and mechanical factors of BPAP as a possible convertible device, we understood how big the challenge is. Our biggest challenge was on monitoring. BPAP only knows what it produces. It doesn't really know what a patient gets or exhales. It doesn't have any alarming system regarding the patient. Modern ventilators have two limbs. The first one, the inspiratory limb, pushes air to the patient. The other limb takes the air back from the patient to the ventilator, the expiratory limb. BPAP only has one limb. The expiratory air leaks around the patient mask. And this brings me to the third problem. When dealing with such a contagious pathogen like COVID, you cannot just let the expiratory air to leak from the patient mask. It will pollute the environment of the patient. The fourth problem was that most of BPAP devices do not support any oxygen entry. So we understood how big the challenge is, so we started to collect a team. And we collected the dream team, the best physician from Sheba Medical Center, anesthesiologists, lung experts, ECU doctors. Everybody wanted to help. With the unlimited resources of IDF, my friend Unit gave us the best experts and engineers and the ability to do the impossible one time after another. The devotion and compliance of people to the project was amazing. No question asked. Just let me know how can I help. Maybe it was a sense of urgency, maybe patriotism. Anyway, it was exciting and heartwarming. We used BPAP just as a bellow, not more than that. We even invented a better bellows than BPAP, but we stick with BPAP just because of the FDA approval. We used NRV, non-rebrethable valve, some kind of one-way valve close to the patient mask. And we took out short limb that include PEEP valve and HME filter. We call this solution the 1.5 limb solution. In this way, we overcame both the limb problem and the pollution. Because of safety concern, we decided to connect the O2 downstream to BPAP, but upstream to the sensors. But developing the module was our biggest effort. On one hand, hardcore mechanical and electrical engineering. We used pressure and oxygen sensor closest to the patient mouth to improve the accuracy of the system, and bidirectional flow sensor to enable both expiratory and inspiratory monitoring. On the other hand, our software team coded algorithms for alarming with 24/7 loop recorders and the ability to report back. We try to simplify everything based on the assumption that if ventilator will be in deficit, our ventilator will be operated by untrained hands, so we have to keep it simple. I want to share with you the exciting moment of the first time that the magic happens. 2 weeks after the beginning of our project, we actually were able to ventilate a demo lung. We conducted 5 different experiments on various simulators and modules. All of them showed similar ventilation factors comparing to the gold standard ventilator when using pressure-controlled ventilation. 22 days after the beginning of our project, we started with mass production. All packages of BPAP from Sheba Medical Center, including modules, connectors, filters, and tube, everything was included, even simple manuals. 28 days into the project, we delivered to Sheba Medical Center 100 ventilators. We built an assembly line with the ability to produce 300 units per week. The Minister of Health even defined our project as a doomsday weapon. As a startup, we had everything you can imagine. Unlimited resources, devoted team, and most importantly, a major need. After big hopes, exposure, newspaper, TV shows, we felt like we were actually saving the world. Not even one patient needed our ventilator yet. But don't take me wrong, I'm more than happy the situation hasn't got so bad. But during the process, we realized something. The model we developed, the potential of using the module as a monitoring unit of any ventilator, with the ability to record 24/7 and report back, devices that can be used for diagnosing, to collect data, for home monitoring of chronic patients, that have the ability to contact emergency services when needed. We patent both the conversion and the monitoring unit during the process. These days, we work hard with our lung service to conduct clinical trials which using the module to home monitoring with 24/7 loop recorders and machine learning algorithm that diagnose and report in real-time respiratory distresses and contact emergency services to save lives. I guess this is what happened when mixing doctor, major, and a lot of beer. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Harry Gross, and I'm reaching out to you from the Big Apple, New York City. My wife, Talia, and myself are fortunate and blessed for being associated with the Sheba Talpiot program. As all of you know, Sheba Medical Center is the largest medical center in Israel and in the Middle East, and is listed as one of the top 10 hospitals in the world by Newsweek magazine. Sheba has pioneered the Talpiot Medical Leadership and Excellence Program in order to develop its residents to their highest potential and thus become visionary clinicians and in various medical fields. Members of this program are fast-tracked on a road that brings them to provide tremendous value to the entire healthcare ecosystem, both as individuals and as part of a team. By so doing, the program helps to transition respected clinicians into also skillful managers. These individuals represent the future of Sheba, the future of the Israeli medical community, and indeed, the future of the global healthcare ecosystem. The Talpiot program emphasizes the values of excellence, innovation, and leadership, and it encourages its members to take greater responsibility for the future of medicine. The Talpiot program, as measured over the last 17 years, continues to develop generations of physicians who are committed to medical excellence. These physicians, the Talpiot members, impact the healthcare ecosystem through research and innovation. In regular times, and of course, in this critical period of the coronavirus pandemic. We are thrilled that Sheba and the physicians have organized this event to share some of their success stories of innovation, of excellence, and the impact that their efforts have made on all of us. We are looking forward to more opportunities like this. On a personal note, I would like to mention that a random encounter with Professor Itzhak Kreis in New York brought about the association of our family with Sheba family, and has turned out to be a life-changing event for us. This encounter with Professor Kreis has further brought about getting to know unique individuals at Sheba, such as Dr. Eyal Zimlichman, one of the leaders of the Talpiot program, as well as a group of distinct individuals who we are sure will continue to contribute to the future of medicine in Israel and worldwide. My wife, Talia, and I thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event, and we would like to conclude by wishing you continued success. Thank you. Alu v'atzlichu.
Dr. Gal Yaniv's professional medical journey began in 1995 when he was accepted to the medical reserves in the IDF. Throughout his medical career, in between his residency and fellowships at the Sheba Medical Center, Yale, and Mount Sinai, Dr. Yaniv assumed key positions as an Army doctor for special units. There he met a few key people in his life. 1, his wife, and 2, his future co-founders of ADOC. Having specialized in radiology, Dr. Yaniv was well aware of the rising challenges in the field, particularly the pressure to produce quality results at a faster pace. Today, Dr. Yaniv will be sharing with you the story behind ADOC. Dr. Yaniv credits his family as his greatest accomplishment, and he would never turn down a good slice of pizza. Talpiot X-Med. Leadership in healthcare.
Good evening. I'm a radiologist. Radiologists are those subspecialized doctors who are responsible of reading all medical imaging, including X-rays, CT, MRI, and more. One of the first fundamentals you learn as a resident is that a second view or a look can completely change the perspective on the case you are reading. This should lead me to the understanding that if every radiologist will have someone or something that will look over his shoulder while he is reading his studies, this will enhance his abilities. We can actually create super radiologists. Now, I would like to take you now to a real case, showing how important it is to have something looking over for you. 7:25 a.m., it's probably the most dangerous hour in the ER day cycle. The physicians and the radiologists are tired after another tough night shift. In the list of the radiologists, there are 8 more scans to read, and the radiologist will probably leave it to his colleague coming to replace him soon. At the same time, an unconscious patient who was suspected to suffer a seizure was having his head scanned. Let's call him Mr. X. At this situation, his scan will wait for at least an hour and a half before read by the radiologist. Now, before I will tell you what happened, let's go back in time to 2015. In the winter of 2015, I was sitting in my office back then at the Hebrew University, Jerusalem, when my cell phone rang, and on the other side was Elad Valach, a commander in an elite Air Force technological unit. Elad had a great idea. He said, let's create a joint research project between his unit and mine, thereby allowing our trainees to learn how to bridge ideas between the technological and medical world. Our idea was to create special 3D glasses for endovascular surgeons to aid them navigate in the blood vessels. That was actually the first time I realized the potential of synergy between medicine and technology. 2 good things happened due to this project. First one was first prize for best medical project, and second was meeting my amazing co-founders of future ADOC, Elad, Michael, and Guy. At August of 2016, ADOC was officially founded. Our vision was to create a life-saving AI for artificial intelligence system for radiologists' second look. So ADOC is actually an artificial intelligence solution that supports and enhances the impact of radiologists' diagnostic power, helping them expedite patient treatment and improve quality of care. In simple words, we create special algorithms that alert the radiologist about life-threatening pathologies. One of our first insights as we founded ADOC was that we need an alpha site, a strong medical base that through strategic partnership will help ADOC thrive. Sheba was the natural choice. The ARC Hub helped us achieve the most important three assets we needed to create a successful product: a bidirectional cooperation, real-life integration in a major hospital, and an ongoing feedback for our products. Now let's go back to Mr. X at the Sheba ER. Only 9 minutes after he was scanned, an alert by ADOC appeared on the screen, alerting the radiologist that there is a suspected brain bleed at the last head CT done. The radiologist opened the scan and looked at the alerts. Actually, they didn't look like bleeds, but rather another life-threatening pathology. This looked like clots within the brain arteries. This required a very urgent response. The radiologist stepped away and physically pushed the patient back into the scanner. The new scan showed the real pathology: blockage of numerous arteries in the brain. Now, these examples show two of the three main fundamental principles of our AI products: prioritization of urgent cases. The product should be always on, never needed to be manually operated, and always at the background checking the scans. But what about the first and most important one, improving patient outcome? Back to the patient. The patient was brought emergently for an angiography, and as you can see, the blood clots were removed, restoring blood flow to the brain. Unless ADOC alerts, the patient would have been waiting precious time before diagnosis and treatment. Instead, today, after short hospitalization and rehab, the patient actually went back to his life fully functional and with his family. April 1st was the first deployment of the brain bleed algorithm at Sheba Medical Center, our alpha site. And 6 days later, I actually got an email I will remember for a long time. The email was from Professor Hoffman, head of neuroradiology at Sheba, who wrote this email. While I'm reading old MRI cases, this ADOC thing popped up with a new intracranial hemorrhage at the ER. Looks really good. Today, 4 years after this ADOC thing, ADOC has gained 6 FDA and CE-approved algorithms, discovering time-sensitive, life-threatening pathologies covering almost all areas of the body. These algorithms were validated by numerous peer-reviewed abstracts and paper. Moreover, 96% of the radiologists who tried ADOC products have decided to continue using it. And now, ADOC products are deployed in more than 500 medical centers all over the world. However, as I mentioned before, the most important factor in the success of the company is about patient outcome. And these are just a few testimonials from all over the world showing how AI impacts radiologists and patient outcome. Thank you very much.
Professor Ohad Galmor always knew he wanted to be a scientist. His fascination with microbiology grew as he became more cognizant of the sophistication and complexity of bacteria. His breakthrough research on Salmonella contributed greatly to the worldwide scientific community regarding virulence mechanisms and regulations of pathogenicity and their role in Salmonella and other pathogens infections. The Talpiot Medical Leadership Program is proud to partner with the Nehemiah Rubin Excellence in Biomedical Research, the TELEM program at Sheba, which is under the directorship of Professor Galmor, and we are delighted to host him. Professor Galmor still has his passion for the great outdoors and enjoys hiking, biking, and swimming. Talpiot X-Med, leadership in healthcare.
Good evening. Today I want to talk about the phases of the antibiotic-resistant global crisis and possible ways to fight it. Bacterial infection resistant to antibiotics is one of the most serious and severe challenges that the modern medicine is now facing. On a global scale, each year, 700,000 people die from resistant infection, and estimations suggest that by 2050, this number will increase to 10 million, with an annual economic burden of $88 trillion US. This dramatic and global crisis is rapidly escalating because of three main reasons. The first reason is very low investment by the large pharmaceutical companies in the research and development of new antibiotics due to low profitability. The second reason is overuse of antibiotics in the agriculture sector, when these are often being used as prophylaxis and animal growth promoters. And the third reason is extensive misuse of antibiotics in humans. About 2/3 of all antibiotics treatment in the USA are incorrectly prescribed. But how antibiotic resistance is actually acquired? In bacteria, antibiotic resistance can be acquired by different mechanisms. However, the most efficient and alarming way is by a process known as conjugation. Please remember this term, which simply means sex between bacteria. In this process, a mobile genetic element known as a plasmid is being replicated and then transferred from a donor bacterium to a recipient bacterium via a special tube called conjugation bridge. This is how the conjugative bridges look like under a powerful electron microscope. These tubes are used for the transmission of resistance and virulence genes carried on mobile genetic elements between bacteria. Therefore, this process plays a key role in the evolution and emergence of new bacteria populations that can be not only multi-drug resistant, but also hyper-virulent. This sounds very scary, and it is indeed a powerful driving force in bacterial evolution. But what if I tell you that we can control and restrict this process? Work done in my lab in the last few years has shown that bacterial conjugation could be limited by certain chemical compounds, specific physiological conditions, and surprisingly, even by microgravity. In the lab, we can mimic, to some extent, microgravity using a special device that was developed at the NASA's Johnson Space Center to simulate the effects of microgravity on cells. Experiments with this device suggested that under microgravity-like condition, bacterial conjugation significantly decreases by about 40%. And from here, the only way was up. To further test these effects of microgravity, we have recently used the lab-on-chip platform developed by Space Pharma and the nanosatellite Dido-3 to send bacteria to space and study how the space environments affect their conjugation. The original launching time was scheduled to October 2019. However, a mission that should have been launched before ours using the same Vega rocket crashed and everything stopped. After the rocket crash, the COVID-19 pandemic has started to spread in the world, and they had to shut down the launching facility at French Guiana. After that, we faced a long period of bad weather with windstorms at the high level of the atmosphere, and the launching was canceled and suspended over and over again. After 10 months of nerve-breaking anticipation, when we started to lose hope, the satellite was finally launched. This happened on September 3rd at 5:35 a.m. Israeli time, carrying our patiently waiting bacteria to space.
3, 2, 1, top! Allumage P80. Allumage P80, décollage. SSMS Force Flight.
Our experimental space at an orbit of 500 kilometers above Earth lasted more than 40 days. During this exciting time, we were able to closely follow bacterial conjugation and the rate of transferring resistance genes in space. Comparison of this space experiment to an identical ground experiment that was conducted in parallel indicated that conjugation in space was decreased by about 2,000-fold in comparison to on-Earth condition. Okay, so this is all very nice and neat, but one may ask, what do we care about bacterial sex in space? Well, we do care about it because of two main reasons. The first one is because when we send people to space, we actually ship more bacteria than human. The number of bacteria in our body exceeds by more than threefold the number of all human cells. And we want to know how microgravity and space environment may change the resistance and virulence potential of our own microbiome in space. Currently, we send on a regular basis astronauts to the International Space Station. But even now, given that you have enough money, you can purchase a space traveling ticket for recreational purposes from different companies like Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, or SpaceX. Of course, this trend of space tourism will become more popular and more frequent in the not that far future. The second reason this is interesting for us is that it may teach us how to fight conjugation also on Earth. The influence of microgravity on conjugation is most likely due to the effect of microgravity on the assembly of the conjugative bridge I showed you before. Therefore, we reasoned that if we can find other ways to interfere with the assembly of these conjugation bridges, we could risk conjugation and the dissemination of resistance virulent genes between bacteria. In other words, we can possibly use this gained knowledge to develop contraceptives for bacteria. One material we found to do exactly that is a compound which is naturally present in bile and called glycoholic acid. We found that glycoholic acid significantly inhibits conjugation and limits transfer of resistance and virulence genes between bacteria, as you can see here. Therefore, we propose to use these or similar compounds in hotspots like hospitals or agricultural facilities as an innovative way to fight the fast dissemination of antibiotic-resistant genes, which results in hypervirulent and hyperresistant new bacteria strains. When I have opened my lab at the Sheba Medical Center, I have never imagined, even in my wildest dreams, that we will send bacteria to space. But the last unusual year has proven that for us, even the sky is not the limit. Thank you very much.
Dr. Itai Pesach's passion for working with children and being a partner in their path towards a healthy life led him to the field of pediatric intensive care. Currently the director of the Edmund and Lily Soffer Children's Hospital, Dr. Pesach is also a renowned researcher and valued mentor to the next generation of doctors. As the COVID-19 pandemic emerged, Dr. Pesach was put in charge of establishing and coordinating the critical care efforts at the Sheba Medical Center. Additionally, he serves on the team consulting the Israeli government in dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. Dr. Pesach enjoys spending quality time with his family and jaunts to the desert. Dr. Pesach has always been a strong proponent for developing relationships with patients and their families as an essential component of clinical care. Talpiot X-Med, Leadership in Healthcare.
What a remarkable evening, ending a really unusual year. And what a year this has been. Maybe the most significant one in our lifetime as clinicians. A year with more questions than answers, a year that have changed the way we provide care. But I'll start with a short story, the story of Avi, Avi is a 64-year-old man, usually quite healthy, slightly overweight. He's married and has 2 daughters and a son, of which he's really, really proud of. He arrived at the Sheba emergency department with shortness of breath in early March and was soon diagnosed with COVID-19. He was hospitalized in the first COVID-19 department in Israel at the Sheba Medical Center, but unfortunately, his condition deteriorated quickly and he needed emergent transfer to the ICU. I'll come back to Avi soon. The COVID-19 story of Israel began in early February with the need to prepare for the arrival of the first COVID patients to Israel. These patients were arriving from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, and Sheba, as the city of health of Israel, was the one center that took upon itself to care for them. This was the opening scene in the race to prepare the infrastructure and strategy of treating COVID patients and getting ready to the tidal wave of patients that was approaching. At that point, we had very little data on this new disease and on how to deal with it. A lot was unknown. We focused our efforts on team safety, on isolation, and on distancing. We are used to evidence-based medicine, but there were no evidence. Hence, ingenuity and agility had to come into play. And indeed, we built a high-end, high-tech COVID-19 specific department with innovative technologies, telemedicine, communication, and state-of-the-art equipment that allowed for treating and monitoring our patients from afar and protecting our team members while maintaining a very high level of medical treatment. The Diamond Princess patient came and went, but other, more critical patients started accumulating. These patients deteriorated rapidly and needed a much higher level of care than just one internal medicine department. They basically needed a fully stacked ICU. Avi was amongst these patients. So we had to build a COVID ICU from scratch. As Sheba continued to treat many non-COVID patients, we did not want to use the regular ICUs. So we decided to utilize our emergency hospital located in one of the OBGYN underground parking lots. But how do you maintain a highest level of care, as these patients required, in a parking lot with protective gear and no real ICU infrastructure? Well, there was no textbook or manual for this. This required a lot of very smart, innovative people that see the sky as their limit. Within less than a week, our logistic teams have equipped the parking lot with all that is needed to run a fully operational tele-ICU. Beside all the usual ICU technologies that were brought, command centers were set up with the ability to monitor from afar each patient. Autonomic robots that allow physicians to see and communicate with the teams inside were deployed. High-tech communication and team management systems were used, and even artificial intelligence solution, automatically monitoring and predicting the patient's clinical status, were implemented. For some of these technologies, this was their first time in clinical use. We got a lot of help from the Israeli high-tech industry, from the IDF and other national authorities. As I said, there was no textbook or manual to guide us. But at the end, the first, and to date the largest and most advanced COVID ICU was built, and the standard of care for COVID ICU patients was set. The bar we raised became the standard for all Israeli hospitals and to many around the globe with whom we shared our knowledge. We even got a call from the White House asking us for the manual on how to build a COVID-19 ICU in a parking lot. Well, we said there isn't one. So Avi was now transferred to our underground high-end ICU and got the best care possible from our dedicated ICU multidisciplinary teams. However, COVID can be a nasty disease, and his condition continued to deteriorate. He was sedated and mechanically ventilated, and as he continued to worsen, he was put on the ECMO, the artificial heart and lung machine, for a very long period. Throughout the time he was there, we tried to communicate with his family. We called and updated them actively twice daily. They really wanted to be at his side, especially in those days. His life were at risk. But we needed to protect them and to protect the teams, so we could not allow them to come over. Some of the patients in the beds next to Avi did not make it. They died, despite heroic efforts by our teams. As many around the globe in countless COVID units, they died without their family members at their side, with only a team member in protective gear holding their hands. This was unacceptable. No one should die alone. We understood at that point that in our race for protection, high tech, and fear of the unknown, the part of human interaction and human experience was slightly left out. This struck me even harder when during my work in the National COVID Advisory Team, I visited all the COVID units around the country, and the one thing the team members raised concern about was not their safety, their working conditions, the long, stressful hours in unbearable protective gear, or their fear of the disease. It was the fear they would not be able to provide the care they wanted to give their patients. They were afraid that in light of the growing numbers and surges of new patients pouring in, they will have to stop caring. Well, miracles do happen. Actually, at Sheba, they happen almost every day. And thanks to the heroic efforts of our COVID ICU team, Avi improved. He was taken off the ECMO and even off the ventilator, and after a short rehabilitation, he went home, more than 3 months after he was initially admitted. He came back to thank us a few weeks later. When we asked him, Avi, what do you remember from your time in the underground ICU? He said, nothing. I only remember this lady on rollerblades that went by and talked to me. Lady on rollerblades? What Avi meant was the InTouch robot, the telecommunication robot that allows the physician to communicate with the patient and team members from afar. The smiling face of the physician in the control room, shown on the robot screen, was the only face Avi could see for more than 2 months. All the other were faceless people in protective gear. This was the lady in rollerblades Avi remembered. It makes you wonder what these times of pandemic do to human interactions and relationships. Everything we know about patient care and communication have changed. As a pediatrician, my strongest tool was always my smile. My ability to soothe an aching child or consult a worried parent was my expression and my ability to touch. Heck, thinking about this, babies born in March have never actually seen the faces of mostly anyone but their parents. So we changed everything. We let families into the COVID departments to visit regularly. We used telecommunication and virtual reality to allow the patients to communicate with their loved ones and with the teams. We brought in volunteers to assist and spend time with our patients. We printed out faces on our protective gear so patients would know the face behind the mask or visors. And we touched, we smiled, and we hugged as much as we could. We even have a COVID medical clown now, and no one dies alone. As a physician and a human being, I understand now more than ever the importance and meaning of care and compassion. I see what social distancing and fear can cause, and I am sure that in our efforts to overcome this crisis, like other dark times in our past, the key will remain caring for each other. We, the people in the front of this crisis, will have to continue to set the bar high also in this aspect. We have to always remember that we are not health providers, we are caregivers. Thank you very much.
Talpiot X-Med, Leadership in Healthcare.
So we have heard this evening 6 amazing stories. From building capacity to fight COVID, to a glimpse of the use of artificial intelligence to improve our ability to treat patients. From the role of bacteria in our guts, to space travel and bacterial resistance. And of course, to Professor Deckel's ability to grow kidneys in the lab. Sound almost like science fiction, right? I trust you enjoyed your time with us and invite you to stay connected and dream with us about the future of health. How fitting is that these days we're witnessing the true potential of science. Reminding us to always stay curious, ask questions, explore, and research. This is the perfect moment to say thank you to all our partners in the Talpiot program. First of all, to Harry and Talia Gross, without whose generosity this program would have never have been possible. To Sheba's leadership across the years, who have made Talpiot a reality, and to the Talpiot Steering Committee, to the direct managers of the Talpiot members, and of course to Sheba's Director General, Professor Kreis, for his vision. I also want to thank Systemic Innovative Thinking, SIT, for their ongoing role in running the program since its very early days. We're looking forward to our next event with another set of great discoveries and stories to share. If all goes well, we hope to see you in person next time. Until then, Stay well, get your vaccine when possible. Shalom v'litraot from Sheba.
Talpiot program at Sheba. Let's talk about numbers. 85 startups, over 100 awards, $50 million in research grants, 20 independent research labs, 12 Talpiot graduates managing departments, 17 senior lecturers, over 2,000 published articles, 16 professors, 12 service managers, one special Talpiot program that is preparing future generations of medical practice in Israel. Talpiot prepares leading doctors in their fields of expertise. They're prepared for leadership, excellence, research, and innovation, turning them into the top medical professionals at Sheba and in Israel.
The Talpiot program prepared me to lead the Children's Hospital.
Don't think about the here and now. Look over the horizon.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a member of Talpiot.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot member.
I'm a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
I am a Talpiot graduate.
Sheba's Talpiot program, leading the transformation of health. By the way, I'm also a Talpiot graduate.